like no one's worse for wear. I'm just gonna double check.
Hey, where'd that garbage god go? What is Urizen after?
He's at the top of the Qliphoth.
It's the other way around, Dante. This is the lowest level of the Qliphod's upper echelon. Human blood is the source of demons' power. The fruit born through the Qliphod is even more dense than the blood that created it. Its power is unparalleled. Even the almighty Mundus used it to become king of the underworld. Avid told me everything.
Yeah, well, that's a lovely story and all, but as long as we know where to find him.
Whoa, you are the infamous Dante. I'm Nicoletta Goldstein. Sound familiar? My grandmother is Nell Goldstein, the gunsmith that made all your fancy weapons that you got strapped back there. Yeah, there she is!
You don't much look like her.
Yeah, I got my looks from my daddy. That's about all I got from him. But based on his research, I managed to cobble this. Consider it a gift in honor of us finally meeting. Meeting.
I'll take that.
Dante, I'm gonna go too.
Why don't you sit this one out?
Oh, let you call me dead weight again? No thanks. I've got all the power I need, right here.
You don't understand. It's not what I mean.
Let him go, Dante. Time is a luxury that we can no longer afford. We must chase after him post-haste.
What? Does that mean you're going too?
I have a duty to see this through.
Well, that's all you had to say, Mr. Poetry. I'm gonna go my way, and you guys can go yours. Let's just say that's the best for the cause.
And after the funniest cutscene in the game, undisputably, we enter Mission 13 and Part 11 of Devil May Cry 5. This mission is one that's usually talked about quite a bit because it's the only mission in the game that's true co-op. Even though you can't, invite your friends and do it the old-fashioned way, that's, convenient and fun. If you start up this mission when someone else is on the same difficulty or a very similar difficulty, like if you're on Son of Sparda and someone else is playing on DMD, it can still match you up. But playing as a different character, it will link you and you can play together. However, for the sake of this Let's Play, I deactivated that because it can rank you down your difficulty, and since I wanted to do DMD, I knew that would just cause problems because there's a chance that it could rank me down to Son of Sparda just to connect me to someone. Even though, at the end, the mission rating would still register it for Dante Must Die. It's just how it works to make it so you can still play with people. And because this has been a while and it's a special edition and there's no cross-compatibility in any shape or form because, Capcom couldn't help us out in that regard, you're unlikely to find someone now. Like, back when the game first launched on PS4 and Xbox One, every time you went on it, there was someone. There were V players, Dante players, and Nero players alike. But then the V players dropped off because a lot of people realised he's not fun. No, that's a bit harsh, but he's not the best. And he's not as capable as what Dante and Nero can do, especially Dante. And so, unless you're going to fill the shoes, it's unlikely you're going to get the full team of 3 here. Which is also why this mission is the most basic in structure in the game. You fall into this room, fight some enemies, fall down, which puts you into another open arena with enemies, which then you drop down into a safety spot, which then you drop down into a third room of the same scenario, and that's the end of the mission. It's the shortest, most generic structure of a mission in the game, and it's entirely because of the whole co-op thing. They want you to just have a square down battle off with a bunch of enemies. And it's also why there's no actual hard restrictions. If you don't want to fight any enemies, there's nothing stopping you from targeting the red blobs that are linked to the Clyforth veins, breaking them and jumping down and skipping a lot of fights. So say you join and like someone's online, like you connect to someone who's like on the second floor down, because it's just like, let's say this is the first floor, and then next second, and then the third is the third. Like, just so you know what I'm going on about. Say someone's on the second, you want to catch up to them to play with them, you just skip these enemies and jump down there. Obviously, if it being a let's play, I'm going to show me scrapping with them for a while. An alternate idea I had that I was tempted to do, but eventually decided not to, just because I thought, I don't know, I just thought it would be pointless to an extent. Was I was going to have the first room be me playing as V, you know, on normal, the second room me playing as Dante and Son of Sparda, and then the third room just be Nero. But a lot of it as well was down to the fact that I like to show what my rating is at the end of each mission, to show you what I did well, what I did wrong, etc, etc, so you get an idea of the score. Or if I'm trying to make points, like when I'm talking about 10, 12, and 18, I can use my playstyle and look at the rating I've got to make my point. If I was covering 3 characters and skipping between the 3 like that, you wouldn't, unless I went out of my way to showcase it 3 times sort of thing, which would feel like unnecessary. If you wouldn't see the ratings for V and Dante, and you just have to assume I did well as Nero for the first 2 rooms on the D&D run. So I'd rather just do the whole thing. The alternative idea was that I was just going to do this mission 3 full times and record all 3 fully to show V, Dante, and Nero. But I thought you guys would get very bored of this mission very quickly if I did it that way. So this is how it is. I gotta say, after, like, because I've been doing some LDK practice off stream, because I wanted, like I said, because I've been saying before, when I finish the main story, I'm going to be doing Virgil's campaign on Legendary Dark Knight. I've been practicing on LDK, and LDK does the same thing it does in 4 Special Edition, where, although the AI, I think, is on Son of Sparda, they have reduced health. They have, I think, ever so slightly less than normal, if not on normal health bar, just because there's so many enemies, it's to help make it more manageable. It's the same as it was in 4. But because of that, you go and fight things like the Behemoth, and I'm just not used to them dying so quick. I'm not used to them having normal, or slightly under normal, I can't remember which one it is, health bar. Like, it really catches me off guard. Whilst having the Son of Sparda AI. But in saying that, at some point I want to go back and do DMC4 LDK as well, which might be a bit of a role reversal, because I might make that the Nero and Dante playthrough, but if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna be practicing a hell of a lot more as Dante before I do it, because I might be just mediocre, at least in my opinion I am, as Dante in 4, and pretty decent, I'd say, in 5 even, I'm sorry, and pretty decent at Nero in 5. This isn't enough for D&D. That doesn't immediately translate 1-to-1 into 4. If you're a more technical player that spends a lot of time in Devil May Cry, you know exactly what I mean. There's a lot of intricacies and smaller things with Nero and Dante, especially Dante, that are different between 4 and 5. Enemy step is nowhere near as overly generous in 4 as it is in 5. In 5, you could just need to kind of be in a vicinity of the enemy and your enemy step off them. Which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's where I jump off the enemy's head. Doing an enemy step resets all of your moves that would be counted as one time only in the air. Like Shuffle here, or I think it's called Shuffle. You can only do that once in the air. Like, you can't spam it. But if you enemy step, it resets it, so you can. It also resets your gravity, because you become heavier the longer you spend in the air, to make it so you can't just live in the air for a lifetime. But if you can enemy step, you can. It's why when you see me do like the first 2 strikes, I'm like it kind of like holds my position in the first 2 strikes, but any more after that I start lowering, because your gravity just continues increasing. Like your air weights, it continues increasing. Ow! What the hell? Ow! Got that? Get off me! I don't know why this thing's being such a pain in the ass. They're usually not. Have that. It's still not dead. But have that. And you see we can try and get the stun so I can full Buster Arm you and just kill you at this point. Is that enough for the stun? No, it's not. Is that enough for the... That looks like enough for the stun. Have this. That'll kill it. Bang. Anyway, what I was getting at before that enemy started fucking me up. The Dante and Nero, because of things like enemy step, like, you have to be, like, a lot more on the enemy to get away with it in 4. You can't do what you do in 5, where they made it super generous with it, so you can just be in the general vicinity and it will give it to you. Then there's things like, the air mobility as a whole. Like, you can do things like shuffle or, like, air-based attacks when you're, like, an inch off the ground in 5. Whilst in 4, there's this annoying little thing that is, if you're too close to the ground, it won't allow it. You have to be a set amount in the air. There's a restriction that stops you from doing air-based attacks if you're too close to the ground. Like, there are some that get away with it. Like, any sword, like, Swordmaster skill will do it. But if you try and do, like, the air shuffle when you're, like, an inch off the ground, Nero won't do it in 4. He just refuses, because it's just how they built it, how they restricted it, I guess. Anyway, let's break that. And there's a lot of other little things. Obviously, like the Buster Arm, you're using just the Buster. You don't have all the mechanical arms that you get in 5, the Devil Breakers, because that's the new thing in 5. So Nero's moveset is slightly more limited, so which also means because you don't have his genuine Devil Trigger, you don't have access to his triple jump. You do have access to Showdown and... oh, I forget what the other one's called. The 2 Devil Trigger special attacks that Nero gets. The one where he does the super slice all over the place, and the one where he does the charge up. One of them's called Showdown, but I can't remember what the other one's called. But yeah, you can still do them. You can still do the charge shot. You can't do the ammo that you can in 5. Like, I did like that in 5, even if I don't use it that much. I'd rather just use the charge shot. Like, I don't use the extra ammo that much. I usually forget it's there, unless I'm specifically trying to just... like, an enemy's got like 2 HP left, and like they're at a distance, I might just release like an extra bullet at them. Try and kill them a bit more fancily. And of course, Dante the walking toolbox. If I was going to do an LTK run, I would want to spend a lot more time learning Lucifer. Because that is like... I know I said like I'm just A-okay at Dante, in my opinion. Like, I'm not special. But I am hideous at with using Lucifer in 4. I am genuinely not good at it. I've tried practicing it, I've tried to get into the rhythm, but I have never been consistent with it. So, yeah, that's... if I was going to do an LDK run, I would definitely go out of my way to try and learn like Dante properly, because I can get a good feel for the rest of them. Like, I know what I should be doing with Gilgamesh, I know what I should be doing with Pandora. Doesn't mean I'm most consistent with it, but that's just a general rule of thumb you should know with me nowadays with Devil May Cry. I know what I should be doing with everything, doesn't mean I will, because my fingers sometimes fight me. Even though and I've mentioned it before, like, I use the default controls with Nero because I'm actually so adjusted to claw controls. I don't mind it. It genuinely doesn't bother me. I just claw control everything. So I have my index on triangle or Y the entire time when I'm playing as Nero. It's the same as when I'm playing as Dante, and it's the same when I'm playing as V. The only character that breaks this rule is Virgil. Virgil is the only character I use my thumb for the triangle button. Which, to be fair, as I've said before, in a weird way, kind of works out for my muscle memory, because I don't get as muddled jumping between Nero and Virgil as much as I could, because I use different fingers for it entirely. I hold the controller differently. Is this guy not dead yet? There we go. And while we're on this bottom floor, I should mention there's actually 2 secret spots here. A lot of people think there's only 1, but no, there is actually 2. One of them you break open, and one of them you can just find. The one you just find is a much shorter path that leads to a giant red crystal to break. The other one is a much longer path that gets you a gold orb in the process, and you have to break it open. I'll show you where the one you have to break open is, because there's no point doing both of them, really. I think it's either this one or this string. No, it's this string here. You break this and it opens up the piece of the floor. And for a long while, like when this first came out, I would confuse myself because I only knew about the hole that doesn't require breaking it. And so when I found the one that you can break open, I was like, hang on a minute, I never used to have to break it open. Did they change that? Did I always just play it online, someone else had broke it? Like, I really confused myself until I realized, oh no, it's a different one. It's not the one I've been going to. But this is the longer path version. There's also a buster, a devil breaker in here that you can pick up. So like, there's nothing stopping you before the encounter really kicks off. We're quickly just ducking down here and nabbing things like the Mega Buster. But when you're climbing up, this stretch here, this super thin bit that you're very likely to fall off on, is where you'll find your gold orb, and at the top is a red crystal. Like I said, there is another one up here as well, on the opposite side, that doesn't have anywhere near as long a path. Oh shit. Oh, I nearly went perfect. Imagine if I went straight in from there.
Looks like we still got a long ways to go.
And just like that, our heroes are conveniently separated into 3 different paths, which we'll be covering across the next 3 missions, because they're literally like Divergence Point V, Divergence Point Nero, Divergence Point Dante. You're just going to be seeing where all 3 of them landed, because despite being literally within hand-holding distance, they landed in different places.
Damn. Just a little longer. Come on. I must go before he loses completely.
And now it's time, at mission 14 of 20, to play V's last mission. And that genuinely surprised me when I first played through it. I imagined he was going to get the same amount as levels or roundabout as Nero or Dante. So the fact that he only gets 4 unique levels and then shares 2 extra co-op levels, one with Nero and one with Nero and Dante, so he only gets 4 to himself, or 6 total if you play them in the co-op route. He's easily the most undercut character in this. Especially when you consider his last mission. We're not going to fight any enemies here. We have a boss rush coming up. We fight 2 of Nero's boss, and then we fight Cavalier Angelo, Dante's boss. And then we move on, and it has less health because they have to compensate the boss's structure for, you know, V's issues where he can't be as super aggressive, and also compensate for this gimmick they're about to introduce with this boss rush, where they're going to take V's demons away from him. So you go into the first fight not having a demon. You don't have Griffin, Shadow, or Nightmare. Because it's teasing Malthus to us. But I do appreciate that Hideaki Tsuno once again found a way to squeeze in a boss rush. Always there. Even in Devil May Cry 2, they just made the amalgamation, which was like all the bosses in one. Then in DMZ 3, you had the big maze art piece with all the boss mirrors that you had to destroy to get access. In DMC 4, you just had the gauntlet with the dice maze, and now in this, you have this. Like, I kind of love the fact that every game manages to squeeze in a boss rush. Personally, and I know it would have made it a bit more redundant, but I would have gone more all in. What I would have done instead is give V an original level here instead of doing what they did. And then to keep the whole... There's 20 missions. Cool, what is mission 20 right now? Epilogue. So it's prologue, 20 missions, and epilogue. And then squeeze in an extra mission between 18 and 19. Like that is in the base game. That would have been Dante doing a more traditional boss rush. Because I would have thought... I think that would have been a nicer nod to the past. If at like mission 19, just before you get your final showdown with chapter 20, or mission 20, and then what would have been epilogue following my restructuring I would have done, and then have like a full-on traditional boss rush where you fight Goliath, Artemis, the Elder Guryan Knight. I think that would have been nice to fight again, because I do actually like Elder Guryan Knight, regardless of who you fight as it against. And the fact it doesn't show up in Bloody Palace I felt was a missed opportunity. Cavalier, Cerberus, Malthus, and then you wrap up the boss rush and move on. And if you want to, you can chuck in a Mission 18's boss that we haven't got to. I know I keep on spoiling Cerberus, but the reason why I'm not spoiling 18 is because I like the nod that 18 is, as much as I hate that mission's ranking system. And it's like, you could do what they did in DMC3, was like you only need to fight some of them, but you need to fight enough to make a circle, to make a link. And then if you fight all of them, you get the Blue Orb Fragment. Because the last Blue Orb Fragment you get in this, they kind of just give it to you. And it's like, well, if they made it part of the boss rush, that would have been neat. Because the way the last fragment is given to you is like halfway through Mission 18. There's just 3 enemies lingering around, and it's the 3 of like the blood, like the red Imbuses, the ones that try and run away. You kill all 3 of them, it gives you the fragment. You're like, oh, well, I was going to try and kill them all anyway. But anyway, I should actually talk about the boss rush we did get instead. The way it works is that at the start of a fight, you have to pick one of your old minions to come back. I picked Griffin, but if I'm honest with you, it's probably smarter to pick Shadow first, then Griffin later. The only reason I went for Griffin is because I know Artemis was an easy fight, which is why I went for it first, because I could just have Griffin keep on poking it in the air. Additionally, only during this mission, V's jab, his circle jab, actually does damage, so make the most of it. And I know entirely why it's like this. It's in case you pick Nightmare first, when you don't have DT, you need to be able to hurt it somehow. So they just give you the ability to bonk the thing. So do it. And if you can be quick about it, you can bonk, jump cancel, and bonk again. So if you can get into a good rhythm of it, you can like constantly like super bonk them basically to get it a lot quicker. Just be wary of positioning. Like make sure to get your creatures out there when you're fighting Cavalier, for instance, here, so they don't get zapped. Because there's nothing more frustrating with V than losing your animal creatures because he becomes so worthless. Although it's less so in this mission just because of the fact that you can actually do damage for once, you're still losing your main tools and restricting it to just a bonk. Oh, yeah, yeah, so Griffin was in trouble if he stayed there. And I like the remixes too. Well, I say they're remixes, I think they're new tracks, they're just techno beats that I feel sort of vaguely familiar to the actual main boss themes they are from. But I like all 3 of them. All 3 of the the techie remixes they did are just really funky. And this is coming from someone who's not a techno person, really. Like, I'm not that much of a fan of techno music, I just really like these boss themes. Which also kind of leans into why I kind of wish they did a more traditional boss rush. Because imagine if they did those techno kind of beats for every boss in the game. The dream. But let's get to Goliath, which we free Nightmare. I always leave Goliath till last, because if you free Nightmare, you get a special finisher against it. Instead of the normal finisher you would get, where you just like put the cane in its head and break it out. But to be fair, the special animation you get for Artemis and Cavalier is really cool as well. But if you don't have, like, the special kill animation for Goliath requires Nightmare, so if you don't have it, you won't do it. So as a bit of a finale, I always leave Goliath till last, especially because he has the most health anyway. And on D&D, this fight is so annoying. It takes forever. Especially if you foolishly decide to go for Goliath early. Like, make sure Goliath's last just because of how much health you have to burn through. And ow! And be wary of that. But although their health is lowered anyway on this mission compared to when you normally fight them, hopefully this does give you a good idea compared to when we fought these bosses as other characters, like how much of a difference there is between the difficulties. Because Goliath is kind of doing a lot of the same shit here. He isn't being very, like, various, like he isn't showing much variety. He's just kind of swinging around and hoping. Like, he's not doing his charge up explosion, he's not doing a lot of his more dangerous stuff, he's just kind of there. But this is the special kill animation you only get if you have Nightmare. When Nightmare gets super big and you get to punch the fucking thing. Got ya. And then you rip it out when it's dead. I just thought that was a really cool animation, guys, okay? Sometimes simple things amuse me. Even though you never see that animation in speedruns, because obviously that animation is longer than just poking it and taking it out. So they never free Nightmare on Goliath. They free Nightmare on a different fight. But once you defeat all 3, our ticket back out of Malthus's trap is available. There's also a fragment in here to your immediate left now, so make sure to pick it up. I say that, it's been there from the start. It's just, it's easier to reach once you have Griffin. If you don't have any of them, you can wall kick to try and jump up higher, and then spam B to get just enough height to make it. But that's the mission, literally. There isn't another encounter here. There's a secret mission you can get, and I will point out where it is, and there's another fragment as well, which when I went through on Special Edition was one of the only fragments I missed. I say it was it was the fragment here and the fragments in 16, just because you have to go through 16 3 times to get everything. And it's because the fragment that's in this mission I thought was in the next one. I thought you had to get it from the next one, but no, you get it here. But where it is, there's a fork now, and if you take the left fork but immediately hug the right wall, there's a bit you can drop into and you'll find it there. But breaking this bulging blob vein thing to break open the actual path on the left side, it will allow us to go on with the mission, and the second blob we find is where the secret mission is hiding. The secret mission also doesn't have any encounters. It's a final way to get to the destination without touching the floor secret mission. So legitimately, ignoring the co-op missions, assuming you didn't play as V in the co-op missions, mission 9 was the last genuine mission V had. Because this mission was just the boss rush and then we move on. But the secret mission is you break the blob and you just jump over where it is. In fact, you don't even have to break it. You can just jump over it. But this will rip open the last path and you can wrap up V's last mission. And I wonder if that's why he always feels like he doesn't have enough under the hood compared to the other characters. I wonder if it was one of those things was like they realized like they weren't going to be able to squeeze him in that many missions, so they were like, well, let's not spend as much money making him as the other characters if he's not even going to get used that much outside of Bloody Palace. Maybe. I don't know, I'm just theorizing.
All be over. Even Mundus failed to reign over the human world. Surely now he will not.
Malphus. No way can we handle her. We don't have the strength.
I know. But we must get through this. Somehow.
And here perhaps.
And next time on Devil May Cry 5, we'll get to see Nero's divergence point to see how he ended up there. But until then, you guys take care now. Peace.